I'm 25 now, but this happened when I was 16 and I still feel it every time I step into that train station. I grew up in a small village and went to school in the nearest city, about 40 kilometers away. Public transportation was unreliable, so during the week I lived in a student dorm and went home only on weekends. Every Sunday, I arrived at the city's main station and waited for my boyfriend, who came in by train from another town. I'd usually wait over an hour before we walked back to the dorm together. That day felt normal. I was sitting upstairs in the station, headphones in, scrolling on my phone. From where I sat, I could see the entire ground floor below me. That's when I noticed a woman wandering through the station. She looked homeless, unsteady on her feet, stopping at random, staring at people too long. I didn't think much of it. That area always had people like that. Time passed. Then I noticed she was moving closer. She stopped near other people first, probably asking for money. When she turned toward me again, I still didn't look up. Not until she stopped directly in front of me. When I finally raised my head, my stomach dropped. She was staring at me. Her eyes were glassy, unfocused, like she was high. Green liquid dripped from the corner of her mouth. Her clothes were filthy. Thick coat, gray pants, heavy boots. Far too much for the mild spring weather. She was mumbling, lips moving, but I couldn't hear her through my headphones. I took them off. She went completely silent. "What?" I asked. "Can you say that again?" She started mumbling again, but none of it made sense. Just low, slurred sounds. I tried to be polite, but my heart was racing. Something felt deeply wrong. Then she reached into her coat pocket. At first, I thought she needed help. I watched her hand, then looked back up at her face. She pulled her hand out slowly. She was holding a shard of glass. It was long, jagged, sharp. She slid it under her coat, positioning it against her forearm, gripping it tightly in her palm. That's when panic hit me all at once. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice shaking. Without warning, she stepped forward and thrust the glass toward my neck. I reacted on instinct. I jumped up, shoved her back, and screamed, "What are you doing?" She started mumbling angrily now, eyes locked on me, glass still raised. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my bag and backed away, never breaking eye contact. "Leave me alone!" I yelled. People were staring now. The entire station had gone quiet. I ran outside and spotted police officers nearby. I didn't say anything, I just stayed close to them. Moments later, I saw her exit the station too, scanning the crowd, looking for me. The glass was gone, but her eyes found me anyway. I moved to another part of the courtyard and hid until my boyfriend arrived. I never waited at that station again. Even now, years later, I still feel anxious when I pass through that place. I can't stop thinking about how close she got, or how easily this could have ended differently. Sometimes the scariest moments don't come with warnings. They come when you finally look up. This happened back in 2012 when I lived in Canberra, Australia. A place so quiet that when something does happen, everyone knows about it. I had just started year 11 at a new campus we called college, where all students were between 16 and 18. Because I'd always been strong in English, I was placed into a tiny experimental class, only 6 or 7 students, taught by the deputy principal himself. The school was trialing an all-digital setup, which meant everything was done on iPads. No books, no paper. I hated it. After my old friend group fell apart, I kept mostly to myself. I ended up sitting next to another quiet kid. I'll call him Evan. Evan barely spoke. Ever. While I occasionally argued with the teacher, Evan just leaned back in his chair. Scrolling endlessly through his iPad, I don't remember hearing his voice once. A few weeks into the term, Evan stopped showing up. One day turned into several, then weeks. In a city as small as Canberra, people don't just disappear, so I asked the deputy principal where Evan was. He rolled his eyes, brushed past me, and said nothing. That's when I mentioned it to my new friends. One of them, Liam, pulled me aside. Liam was usually a jokester, so when he went serious, my stomach tightened immediately. He told me Evan wasn't just quiet, he was dangerous. Over the summer, Liam had visited Evan's house. At one point, Evan spilled a glass of milk in the kitchen. When Liam laughed it off, Evan snapped, pressed a knife to his throat, and forced him to clean it up. But that wasn't the worst part. Evan's iPad, the same one that sat less than a foot from me in class, was filled with videos. Horrific videos. Things done to animals, mostly dogs, stolen from backyards, lured strays, recorded calmly, casually. There was even a teacher who'd gone outside one night to see why his dogs were losing their minds, only to see Evan disappearing into the darkness. The massive paddock near our school, the one my friends and I used to hide in and smoke, was where it happened. His killing ground, and buried in that iPad was a list. A bucket list. At the very top, graduate to humans. Evan was eventually convicted of animal cruelty. No one I know has heard from him since. But sometimes I think about how close he sat to me, how casually he scrolled, and how none of us had any idea what he was planning next. This might not sound scary at first. It might not even sound wrong to some people. But it's something I've never told anyone, not completely, and I still don't fully understand why. It happened when I was between 15 and 17. Quiet. Isolated. My home life was tense. School felt like something to endure rather than participate in, and I didn't want friends. I just wanted to get through the day and disappear into my room. I'd never had violent thoughts. Never felt obsessed with anyone. Never felt romantic or sexual attraction at all. Until I noticed him. I'll call him Evan. I saw him on the way to math class. He was around my age, tall, blonde, surrounded by friends at lunch. I'd passed him dozens of times before without noticing. But that day, something shifted. I felt a pull I couldn't explain. Not love, not desire. Just an overwhelming need to be close to him. To exist near him. At lunch, I started standing behind him. In line. He always sat in the same place. I never spoke. I just stood there, perfectly still, feeling calm in a way I hadn't before. Then it escalated. I learned his schedule, his full name, his birthday, where he lived, who his family was. I told myself it wasn't strange. I was just curious. I just wanted to know him. Every day I followed him through the halls. At home, I looked through the photos I'd taken of him at school. I imagined what would happen if he caught me. Would he yell? Would he smile? Would he finally acknowledge me? I didn't care which. One day he walked home instead of taking the bus. I followed him through the woods. I stayed far enough back to avoid being seen, stepping carefully over dead leaves and rocks. My legs burned, but I didn't stop. I already knew where he lived. That wasn't the point. I just needed to follow. I left with more pictures, more proof. I started falling behind in school. When I was moved into a new biology class, I sat down and realized he was right beside me. I felt euphoric. For the first time, he noticed me. We made eye contact, again and again. It felt electric, like something unspoken was passing between us. I finally spoke to him, asked for help with notes. He was kind. His voice was warm, human. And then everything collapsed. He found a poem I'd written about him, something I was never meant to give him. He took it silently, read it, and said nothing. Later, I messaged him online to apologize. He told me he knew I liked him, that everyone knew. He told me he didn't feel the same. I stopped following him after that, but he kept watching me. I don't know why. I did this once more with someone else before I moved away. The same pattern, the same fixation. I don't know what compelled me to do it. I don't know what I might have become. If I hadn't stopped, I'm better now, happier, stable. But there are details I'll never share. And sometimes I wonder how close I came to becoming something far worse.